What is going on, everybody? Good morning. Good morning. Thank you very much for being here. Appreciate you guys being a part of the show. We got a busy day today. Monday, February 23rd, 8 a.m. on the dot. Appreciate everybody hanging out here on the Sliwa show. A little hoops talk action tonight. Got a lot of Lakers, NBA. What are we doing? We sort of recapping two games. I think we're recapping two games. Really, we're only just recapping one. If I'm being honest with everybody, it's kind of just recapping one game, just basically talking about last night's game. Got a lot to get into. Got a guest today as well, so we're going to spend some time looking forward to meeting with our guests and definitely breaking down not just what we saw last night, just the Lakers in general, the NBA in general. So looking forward to talking some Lakers basketball, some NBA basketball with everybody. Do me a favor, if you guys got something you guys want to say in regards to last night's game or just any thoughts or comments, put in the comments. I'm always trying to encourage as many people as we can to be a part of the comments, so certainly feel free to do so there. I'm going to give everyone a quick rundown what we got going on for the show. A couple things going on in the show today. Let me do that, and then I'll look at a couple of the comments, then we'll get the show started. So thank you very much for being here again. Please subscribe to the channel if you guys don't mind subscribing. Did something last night. We're going to do it again today as well. We'll welcome in anybody that's joining the show on AM 570 on their YouTube. Welcome. We do this Monday through Friday. We'll do a couple of these. We did it yesterday for the post-game show as well. We were live also on AM 570's YouTube, and then this morning we're live there as well. So welcome and thank you for being here. Please subscribe to the channel if you guys don't mind. Give everyone a quick rundown what we got going on for the show today. So obviously the big news, everything that went down yesterday. Lakers had a game. They get a chance to go up against the Boston Celtics. Celtics dominate. Like I really don't even know what else to tell you. Celtics dominated. They did. They were better than the Lakers. Every facet of the game, we'll obviously talk about what Boston did that was so much better. But I think the thing that really kind of stood out to me is the Lakers' DNA versus the Celtics' DNA. Polar opposite. You got two different teams that are literally in two different worlds when it comes to that. So we'll recap last night's game. Too much complaining. You know, if there's one thing that I just cannot stand watching Lakers basketball so far this year, God, does this team complain a lot. And not only do they complain, but it affects them. It has a true effect that sometimes they're sitting on the floor. They're not going back and playing defense. Want to talk about where is this complaining coming from? How come this is such a part of the Lakers' DNA for some reason? There was a clip JJ Redick said post-game show last night. I'll play it in regards to some of the complaining calls going against Lakers. By the way, I'm not here trying to make an argument that that there aren't some calls that are going against the Lakers. There are calls going against the Lakers. All right, deal with it. Laker lineups, I'm going to ask people. I did it yesterday in the post-game show as well. I'm going to get people's opinion on some of the lineups for the Lakers. I think I'm trying to figure out what is in the best interest of the Lakers, because right now putting Marcus Smart in the starting lineup, putting Austin Reaves back in the starting lineup, I think is having an effect on everybody else and the Lakers bench. And is there enough balance there? So we'll spend a little time on that. Keith Smith, who does a really, really good job covering the NBA. He's also a Boston guy. He's originally from the Boston area, so he's a Celtics fan. So he's going to help break down yesterday's game as well. He's going to join the show at 8:30. More conversations coming up in regards to Walker Kessler. Got a couple things around the NBA. MVP favorites. LeBron making a case for Jaylen Brown. A couple of these guys in the Eastern Conference, to be honest with you, I don't blame them if they are making a case for Jaylen Brown or making a case for Cade Cunningham. I get where people are coming from that perspective. So another thing to kind of watch out in regards to some of the MVP favorites. It's not just Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and just the Western Conference. I think there's some legitimate players in the Eastern Conference that should have that chat. We'll do a weekend recap, and then we'll call it a day. So thank you very much for being here. Appreciate you guys being a part of the show. Let's take a look at a couple of the comments before we get started, and then we could start breaking everything down. All right, let's see what we got here. What are people already saying? People angry? Are they happy? No, they're okay. Got people saying good morning. Sometimes it's tough. Sometimes in the morning, depending on how the Lakers do, maybe I don't get a good morning. I might get not today, Slee. Not today. Reaves needs to be the sixth man. Need some athletes, guys who love to play defense. Minnesota from the playoffs last year gave the blueprint of how to play us guard full court. Yeah, and there's, I think teams know that. I think they understand. Some teams don't have the personnel. Clearly, Boston, who doesn't have more talent than the Lakers, but has personnel. Clearly for them, they don't got a problem with that. Morning, Slee. Good morning to you, brother. Cheers. Cheers. I got there's some coffee down here in San Diego. This place is solid. Better Buzz. It's good coffee there. You want some tea? I got some tea as well. What do you guys want? Croissant? Get this man a croissant over here. I want to have like a full bakery here while I'm doing my morning show. I want you guys to hear the coffee in the background. People making espressos. How great would that be? Run a coffee shop in this place. All right, let's get a couple. Good morning to you as well. Would blame the refs for why we lost because we couldn't contain Pritchard. Payton Pritchard was filthy yesterday. All right, let's get started. Let's get into some of the topics here for the show. So, I think yesterday's game, just a reminder here, by the way, there was 2 games over the weekend. So Lakers played Friday night. If you guys remember, they beat the Clippers, 125-122. Just kind of barely held on to that game, but they did win. And then last night, there was obviously the Lakers and the Celtics. And it's not that I'm going to completely dismiss the Clippers game, but here's the reality. It was a couple nights ago. I don't think anybody's going to really remember that game. So I definitely want to focus more on the Lakers and the Celtics. And Lakers beat the Clippers, and I'll leave that one there. That's just, they're supposed to beat the Clippers. John Collins doesn't play in the second half. What else? Benedict Mathurin fouls out with a few minutes left to go. Kawhi Leonard doesn't play the last 5-6 minutes. He was dealing, I think, with an ankle issue. So Lakers are supposed to win that game. Last night, Lakers and the Celtics, I think was going to be, if I'm being completely honest with you, I mean, listen, yes, there are some surprises that come into that game, but I thought the first 6 minutes of the game kind of determined what we were going to see the rest of the way. And if there's one thing that I think I can safely say about the Lakers is we know who they are. We kind of understand who their DNA is, or what their DNA is. We understand that. There's a really good quote. Remember that quote from Michael Thompson? I'm sure MT had the same quote as well. Mike Tyson had a quote back in the day. He said, everyone has a plan until they get punched in the mouth. Does it not feel like the Lakers are a perfect example of that? They have a plan. They walk into games. They say, this is what we're going to do. Everything's okay. Kumbaya, no issues, no problems. Let's just go in there and try to do what we do. And then the moment the Lakers get punched in the mouth, which is exactly the style of the Boston Celtics. You know what the Celtics want to do? They want to go 12 rounds. They want to wear you down. They might not be looking out. They might not be looking for a knockout punch, or maybe by the time they get to the 9th round, 10th round, they're comfortable enough and they could potentially knock you out. If we're using the equivalent of it's the analogy of the start of the 4th quarter, they're trying to knock you out. The Boston Celtics want a grind it out type of game. The Lakers want nothing to do with that. So, when I put in here the Lakers DNA, and when I try to kind of describe who the Lakers are, to be a championship quality team, to be a team that's a real threat to come out of the West or the East, or to be a team in any sport, doesn't matter what sport it is. You got to have some grit in you. You got to have this. There's got to be something in your DNA. It's like when I hit the canvas, I'm just getting the hell back up. I don't even know what's going to happen, but I just know this. I'm going to get the hell back up. Do the Lakers have that in their DNA? Has anything shown you this year that when you watch Lakers basketball, it's like, man, these guys never give up. Man, these guys never quit. Does that associate with the Lakers? It's funny, early in the season, when Lakers started the year, maybe for the first, I'd say month maximum, they got off to a good start. They did have this DNA in them where it felt like they're going to play tough. They're going to play hard. It might not be perfect every single time, but they're going to show out. Like the effort's going to be there. last night was just another one of those games that there's certain styles, where they say styles make fights. There's certain styles that if the Lakers go up against a certain opponent, it's not a good combination for the Lakers. And it might be teams like, I'm thinking of teams that want to grind. And I think Boston wants to grind. I think Detroit wants to grind. I think, of course, OKC, San Antonio, some of these more. There's a reason why all those teams are, I think that's the top 4 teams in the NBA by record. There's a reason why those teams are as good as they are. And the Lakers, I don't think Boston has more talent than the Lakers. I really don't think Boston has more talent than the Lakers. But they're more of a unit. They're better coached. They run more plays. They have more threats because you don't really know where the ball's going to go. Yeah, Jaylen Brown and Payton Pritchard, those 2 guys are going to be their essential players, but there's other guys that can hit buckets for them. There's other guys that are involved on the offensive side. On the defensive side, it's a slugfest. I mean, they make you feel them every single possession. That's not how the Lakers want to play. That's not who the Lakers are in their DNA. And it's really why you just can't you can take the Lakers serious to an extent. They're going to have a good record when it's all said and done. They're probably going to end up a 3rd or 4th or a 5th seed, probably 3rd or 4th seed when the dust settles. But when you really start asking the question of who are the teams that are just the absolute elite in the NBA, Lakers can't be in that conversation. And a lot of times it doesn't have to do with just talent. It has to do with what's your DNA, what kind of style are you willing to play, how willing is your coach to be able to adjust things, how willing is your coach to be able to challenge some of the stars on the team, to also look at them and say, you're not setting the proper example. That's just not part of the Lakers. It's just the truth. It's the reality. I said something yesterday in the postgame show that I actually, the more I thought about it, the more I definitely think there's some truth to it. But I'll tell you what I said to this. The Lakers, Boston should be the Lakers model. The way the Celtics are built should be the Lakers model. You might be saying, why the hell would you compare the Lakers to the Celtics? Why do you want their model to be that? Because from the top to the bottom, and I'm talking about from ownership to the front office, to the scouting department, to the coaching staff, to the players, there's a system in play. And I just don't think the Lakers have that system, period. And if there's something that Boston's been able to do every single year now how long have Jayson Tatum and Jaylen Brown been in the mix in the Eastern Conference? How many years in a row? Is it like, I saw something today. Isn't Tatum only 27? I think Jaylen Brown is a year younger than him, a year older than whatever. They've basically been in the mix for 6-7 years in a row now. They got an identity. And that's not something that I think the Lakers have right now. So I think my biggest takeaway from last night's game is one team, not because of their pure talent, has an identity and will be in the mix of coming out of their conference. And the other team will not come out, not because of lack of talent, not that the Lakers are perfect, but Boston does not have any more talent than the Lakers do. They just play harder. They play more together. They're better coached. They got guys that grind, and that's just not, again, that's not part of the loss. That's not the Lakers. It's not in their DNA, and that part was frustrating to certainly watch. I want to play some for you guys yesterday. Big game, James Worthy. Obviously a Hall of Famer, a legend for the Los Angeles Lakers. Yesterday on Spectrum, I'm going to play a clip here from Spectrum because he was reacting post-game, and I want you guys to take a quick listen to this. Anytime James Worthy talks, obviously he's going to get the attention of not just Laker fans, but basketball fans all around. But here's one thing James Worthy does, and this is why the guy is so good at what he does and why he has so much respect around the league, and not just from his play, but from his perspective when he analyzes a game. Listen to how he describes the Lakers versus the Celtics yesterday. I think this clip kind of says it all. Take a listen.
This afternoon was weak. It's the Boston Celtics. Okay, no Tatum. You're at home. You're in 5th place. You're trying to move up. You show no, really, to me, no respect for the uniform.
Unfortunately, that's the Lakers right now. The Lakers right now, like I said, there's a little bit, I'm going to kind of switch gears here. I'm going to talk a little bit about the complaining and some other things, some elements of the game that, listen, there's nobody that wants that a part of the product. JJ Redick yesterday, post game, Dan Weike asked him about some of the referees, and I don't need to play the clip. I mean, the clip is kind of exactly what you guys would think. And but JJ, I thought he had some really, really good points. JJ was talking about how there was a goaltending that wasn't called on LeBron that should have been called. The center for the Boston Celtics put his hand in between the basket. It didn't affect the shot, but still, in most cases, I would think it was a goaltend. A couple plays, Payton Pritchard, Jaylen Brown, I thought pushed off a couple of different times. Those calls didn't go the Lakers' way. I don't think they're wrong with some of the complaints yesterday in the game. I agree with some of the complaining that the Lakers had yesterday in regards to that. And JJ was basically just, he was saying that I don't know how much he referenced whether it had an effect on the team or it didn't, but here's my problem with the complaining. And there is something that kind of comes with it, all kind of starts from the top down. I'm talking about the stars. It's not the way you want people to describe your team. Let me give you an example. If I go into the office and I say, hey, what do you think about this employee or this coworker that you have? It's like, really nice person. They work hard, but my God, does this person complain all the time? And then whenever you see that person, you're like, oh my God, who are they going to complain about now? Is that not the Lakers right now? I feel like when I look at the Lakers and I think of the Lakers, there is so much bitching and complaining during a game. There was a play. Let's play this because I want to point this out. Tell me how this is possible. I know Luka is one of the top 5 players in the league. I know he is. I know Luka is the present and the future of the Los Angeles Lakers. I know he is. I know he's one of the baddest players that, especially in playoff moments, he's a killer. I mean, really, Luka is an absolute killer. And Luka's going to have chances to win championships for the Lakers, I believe, over the next 5, 6, 7 years, based off of what ownership does and everything else. I think they will. I mean, I think it's going to take a little bit of time, but I think they're going to eventually get there. Here's what you can't have your star player doing. It feels like 20% of the possessions Luka's involved in, he's looking at a referee. Let's play this here real quick. Here's Luka yesterday hitting a 3, okay? Luka hits a 3, falls to the ground. Jaylen Brown doesn't make contact. He stays on the floor complaining. Boston comes back and gets another layup. What's the point of your 3 if you're going to sit your ass on the ground and complain, not get back on defense while the Boston Celtics go get another bucket out of it? Guys, I love watching basketball. I really do. You guys know this. I love watching basketball. I love the NBA. At the end of the day, it's like I can watch any team any night, and I can find a way to enjoy it because I love basketball. There's certain styles of play that I get so frustrated watching. Can the Lakers stop looking at the referees, that they're losing the game because of the refs? And last night on national television, when I hear James Worthy say that, there was no respect for the game and the complaining and this and that, I don't need to see Luka, AR, JJ Redick, LeBron, Marcus Smart, everyone churning to the referee like there's a conspiracy theory on the Los Angeles Lakers and the refs just have it in to not give them an opportunity to win that game. Yes, there are some calls that don't go your way. Every call. Luka's leading the league in free throw attempts. The Lakers, I don't know if they still are, but for a long while, were leading the league in free throw attempts. Every possession, they're going to complain. And when the Lakers complain the most is when they're losing or when things aren't going their way. But, man, that's an area of their game that I really, really hope as the season progresses, that part of that, of the Lakers culture changes. Maybe it doesn't change. Maybe this is who they are until the rest of this season is done, and then they'll try to kind of figure out what to do, in the offseason. But yes, if you lost to the Boston Celtics just because they're better than you, that's one thing. I don't know if Boston's better. I don't know if they're more talented. I know they play harder. I know they complain less. And I know they like muddying the water, and that's not the style that the Lakers like. So Those were some of my takeaways from yesterday's game. And we go back and we look at it. Lakers now 11-14 versus teams over 500. So keep that stat in mind. I think there are plenty of question marks of the Laker lineups and kind of what they do from there. So we'll spend a little time on that. But I thought last night, unfortunately, really tells the story of who the Lakers are. They're talented. They got really good players. They got a top 5 player in the league, but they also have a DNA that's not championship style basketball. And there's going to have to be, some real seismic changes that come this summer in order to be a team that you can look at and say, hey, they got a shot against the top 2 in the West or the top 2 in the Eastern Conference. And the Boston Celtics lost Jayson Tatum, and they're still, obviously doing what they're doing. That part is it's pretty damn impressive to see. And unfortunately for the Lakers, it's just another it's just another L for them. But it's how they lose that I think is the most important thing. All right, let's take a look at some of the comments. I appreciate you guys being here, by the way. Lakers back to being a Fugazi. Fugazi, Donnie Brasco. Go watch Donnie Brasco. Get back. How many times do I have to tell you guys? Al Pacino, Johnny Depp, one of the most underrated movies. Al Pacino walks in. He's got these diamonds there. He shows Johnny Depp. Johnny Depp's like, it's a Fugazi. Lakers might be a Fugazi. They're fake diamonds. They're not real diamonds. All right, let's get a super in here. The recipe for being the Lakers is to piss Luka off and bait him into playing hero ball. Yeah, I think there's more to it than just that. But I think the hero ball, I think anytime you play hero ball, you're going to lose, especially against good teams. Hero ball might beat you against, let me give you an example. And I actually think tomorrow night will be actually a tougher game than people will probably think because Orlando's not all that great and they're only a few games over 500, whatever the case is. But certain teams you can beat and not play perfect. You can beat the Clippers under certain circumstances. You can beat the Warriors. You can beat there's some teams you could beat out there. They could beat Orlando tomorrow, no problem. But what I think you can't get it twisted on is the elite teams, they're not going to let you get away with certain things that you might be able to get away with some of these other average teams. And that record of 11-14 versus teams over 500, yeah, that says a lot. And the Lakers are going to still win games. Like I'm going to kind of go back to this. If you go look at the Western Conference right now, there are a lot of teams in the West that are struggling. I mean, honestly, the only team in the West right now that's like, oh my gosh, it's the San Antonio. They've won 8 or 9 in a row. They've won 9 of their last 10 games. They continue to kind of move up. San Antonio can end up with the best seed in the Western Conference. That's not unrealistic. I think they're 3 games back right now. But Denver's struggling. Houston's struggling. Minnesota's struggling. There's a lot of teams, and the Lakers they'll win games. They might get a 3 seed, a 4 seed, a 5 seed, something along those lines. But when you just kind of think of the big picture, there's a lot of the teams that mean the most or the teams that have the best chance of winning an NBA championship, they're on a completely different level than the Lakers. All right, let's see what else we have here. Honestly, first round exit, there needs to be dramatic makeover this summer. Yeah, I agree with you. Some of that makeover too has to do, I'm going to go back to it. What's your DNA? There's a misconception about certain teams. Let me use the Showtime era as an example. Pat Riley got that statue yesterday. They had the statue unveiling yesterday at Crypto.com Arena. People might look at the Showtime era and say, "Oh, it was just fast break and beautiful passes, and it was just beautiful basketball." Lakers, that Showtime era, locked your ass down. If they needed to play dirty, they played dirty. They had some of the best defenders in the NBA that was on the team. I know I'm going back. That's way too long ago. Go back to the Shaq and Kobe days. It wasn't just Lakers and Shaq and Kobe putting up 125 a night. They used to play defense. There was an ugly style of basketball that came with it. When Shaq won his championship, or when Kobe won his championship with Powell, when LeBron and Anthony Davis won a championship in 2020, guys, it ain't all pretty. Lakers had some badass defenders back in 2020. This team, it's like, yeah, things are going good. Let's sip on a cup of tea. Things aren't going good. All right, let's take our ball and let's go home. I don't disagree with the seismic changes in the summer. I look at it more from the whole kind of the culture needs to change for the Lakers as well. I think there needs to be some type of a culture change. Get another super in here. By the way, I appreciate you guys throwing out the supers. Thank you very much. You just bought my coffee. That's it. My coffee was $3.50 this morning. That's it. It's covered. It's covered. I'll give out free hugs on the nearest nude beach if any can name the kid that was guarding Luka. That's the difference. Effort, not names. Hernandez. Hugo, I think it was. Actually, I'd have to double check. Can I tell you something kind of funny? Because here's the reality with that Boston Celtics team. Yeah, you're right. There's a lot of guys that you don't even know who the hell they are. And it's like, damn, that guy had an impact in the game. Damn, that guy else. Where'd they get that guy from? You kind of start going down the list of some of these different players for the Boston Celtics. Hugo Gonzalez. Hugo Gonzalez is a player that you were talking about. By the way, nothing special. He's a rookie. Fouled a couple of times when he shouldn't have fouled. Like, there were moments in the game where his game wasn't perfect. But you know what it was? It was effort. It was playing defense. It was knowing your role. So thank you for the super, brother. I appreciate it. And definitely don't go to the nearest new. We don't need any of that. We don't need any of that. But we appreciate your effort and your generosity. All right, let me get another one in here. Such an interesting era for the Lakers. They're good, but flawed enough that we can almost call a first or second round exit. I'd almost prefer Dub 9 Raider. That's such a good point. You know, it's kind of a little tough for me. Listen, I'm going to be honest with you guys, and that's my job. I want you guys, every time you guys tune into this channel or whenever I give an opinion about Lakers basketball or just the NBA in general, but I want you guys to always say, all right, well, the guy's being honest with us. He's not blowing smoke up, our you know what. That's all I ask for. That's always my hope when I'm doing a show with you guys. You know what's a little bit tough about this show, this season? I think we all kind of know how it's going to end. I don't think there's much drama to this. I think we all know how it's going to end. If I had to put my money on it right now, I'm going to give the Lakers, I shouldn't give them this credit, but I'm going to give them credit. I'm going to say a tough first round, but I think they win the first round, whoever they play. And at this point, it could be anybody. I don't want them. If they play Denver, I probably lose my opinion on that. If they play Houston, honestly, I think the Rockets are flawed. I think Minnesota's flawed. Phoenix now has a lot of health issues. So we'll see who they eventually play. I think they can win one round. Is anybody putting money on anything after that? By the way, there's probably a lot of people that aren't putting money on Lakers coming out of the first round. So that's when I say it's a little bit interesting to have this conversation, because I think we all kind of fall under a similar circumstance when it comes to that. We're all like, yeah, they're good. Their record is good, but are they really, really good? It's like, no, they're not that good. Thank you for the super, brother. I appreciate it. All right, I got some more supers in here that I'm going to get to in just a second. So thank you for throwing in these supers. I appreciate you guys doing that. Before I do so, let's give a shout out to a couple of our partners. Brad Wallace of the Wallace Firm. I mentioned Keith Smith's coming on here shortly, so I want to talk about our partners here real quick. If you are a family member is dealing with something, serious injury, wrongful death case, you're not 100% sure, what's the first step that you take? Let me help you with your first step. The first step you take is go to wallacewins.com/Sliwa. Go to that website. By the way, you can send me a personal email. I'm happy to make an introduction to Brad Wallace and the Wallace Firm. What I will tell you this, and I'll tell you this confidently, he will guide you in the right direction. He can help. He can help anybody in the state of California. You guys have seen him be a part of the show. I've had him come on as a guest as well. I mean, he's a big Laker fan. The bottom line is what I'll tell you is he can help anybody in the state of California. And all he's looking to do, and all I'm looking to do, is just make sure if anybody needs an injury attorney, you know where to go to, and you know the person to obviously reach out to. wallacewins.com/Sliwa. If you go to that website, we did create this special URL, get a free consultation, and somebody from Brad Wallace and the team will help you out. Happy to make that introduction. Shout out to everybody who's supported our partners, and shout out to Brad Wallace and the Wallace Firm for obviously being such a great partner over the years. All right. I know we got a lot more comments that we're obviously going to get into. I'm going to hold off on the comments now. I do want to get to our guest that's nice enough with his time, Keith Smith, who does some work for Spotrac, who does some work also on YouTube, does the front office show. Nice enough to join the show. Keith, good morning, sir. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you for having me.
All right. Where do I start with Keith? Where do I start with you? I mean, was there let me take this. Did anything happen last night? Lakers and the Boston Celtics started in the afternoon. You want to call it last night, whatever the case is. Did anything happen last night that surprised you? And it could be from the Lakers side of things or the Celtics side of things. You obviously, you cover the entire NBA, but you're also a Celtics fan. And I'm sure watching the Boston Celtics very, very closely. Any curveballs for you yesterday?
Not from the Celtics side, really. They kind of did what they've been doing this year. It's a lot of Jaylen Brown, a good amount of Payton Pritchard. Derek White's the next guy who's gonna kind of do the most, and then the role players all just chip in night to night, whether it be defense, offense, rebounding, whatever it is. They just kind of do their things. I think for the Lakers side, they just never seemed overly engaged in the game, which felt weird to me. It's your biggest rival, the biggest rivalry we have in the NBA. They just seemed like they were kind of going through the motions for a lot of the game. And the Celtics' physicality clearly bothered them. They did not like that. So I think it was just kind of a weird game where they just kind of no-showed it almost.
Do you think, Keith, because I've heard a lot of people say that, and listen, my title yesterday when I was doing the YouTube show was No Fight. And then I kind of thought about it as, I'm driving home yesterday. I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, did the Lakers no show, or is that kind of the Lakers? They're 11-14 against teams that are above 500. They have a tendency to bitch and complain much more than they do locking down on the defensive side. I mean, if you want to talk about effort, Keith, I'll tell you where great effort towards the referees. Phenomenal. Like, I would never complain about the amount of effort they give towards the referees. Now, if they could just use a percentage of that and use that on the defensive side, I think that might help them. But what you said, no show, could that just be who the Lakers are? I know this. I know they don't want to play the style that the Celtics play, which is rough, physical, let's go pound for pound. Let's go 12 rounds. Could it just be that that's who the Lakers are?
Yeah, I mean, it might be. I mean, you're absolutely spot on with the complaining to the referees. Look, I am by no means going to suggest there weren't some bad missed calls.
I agree. I agree with you on that.
Course of that game, like the two missed goaltends were egregious. I don't really know what happened there. I'm a big proponent of quick soapbox moment here of putting a fourth referee that just watches the game for things like that. We already do it, whether it was a shot before or after the shot clock. Was it a 3 or a 2? Somebody reviews those. They tell the guys on the court and they change the score. If you just keep playing, and if you review it and say, hey, the play at 9:20 left in the second quarter should have been a goaltend, 2 points on the board and off we go, right? And yeah, late game you can turn it into the regular review process, but there's that part. So then and then the Celtics, they push off a lot. Jaylen Brown, Payton Pritchard, they're big use of the off arm and pushing off. I will say anybody who suggests Luka doesn't do the same thing needs to watch with a little more impartiality. But it's the complaining and then not playing. There was a play where Luka hit the shot, thought he got fouled. He didn't. The replay showed that he didn't. And he's complaining of the referee while Hugo Gonzalez just ran down after a made basket and got a transition layup because nobody bothered to get back. It's just, to me, those are the things where it got so bad with Luka. The team publicly spoke out about, like, this needs to stop. We can't have this anymore. And that just can't really happen. So you got to be kind of in a place where, like, it's just not like, you just gotta play through, and they have enough veteran guys, enough good players that they should be well beyond that at this point. But yeah, it was tough. And then they did no showing. There are obviously nights where they show up and they're better than the other team, and I think some of that is just some nights the talent differential is great enough, especially offensively. With the Lakers, they're not going to win a lot of grinded out games, so they've got to make shots. I mean, that's just the reality. And I think their margin for error is about this big because they play extremely slow. And if they're not making shots, it's going to be a low possession game. And you're not going to turn these games into shootouts with how slow they play. So for them, they need to get some stops or they need to make their shots. And they're not going to get stops regularly. And you could see there was a moment in the game where two separate ones. One, Marcus Smart missed a three. I'm very familiar with that.
Which one, by the way?
That was in the third quarter.
Was it the fourth one or the fifth one? Because I know it was 0 for 5.
One or whatever. it was in the third quarter. They were making a little bit of a run. He missed a three, shoulder slump. There was the play where LeBron threw the lob to Ayton. Ayton didn't try to finish the lob, came down with it, lost the ball, and the shoulder slumped, and that was it. It was over. Like once you start seeing everybody's shoulders collectively kind of go, that's it. Like, in the Celtics, more than most other teams, that's where then they know they've got you, right? That's when the next time down, they're going to hit you a little harder than they did the time before because they're going to test you and see, all right, do you want to play or not? Or are you done? And that's the tough part of it sometimes.
Yeah, Lakers' tendency, and that's why it's so tough to take this team seriously because, again, I love what you said too. It's not that there weren't some calls that went against the Lakers. I mentioned it. By the way, we played the clip a little bit earlier about Luka basically laying down like he was on the beach and not getting back on defense. But the problem with the Lakers is even other games where things might be going their way, where they might be getting some calls, they're still looking at the refs.
Yeah.
Luka's still looking at the refs. There's two questions I have here. One on Luka, and then one I want to ask on Payton Pritchard and him now coming off the bench, and I'll play this kind of exercise with you. Quick question on Luka. You saw Luka in the NBA Finals against the Boston Celtics. This was now about a year and a half ago. I remember clearly, vividly. Now, listen, it's not apples to apples. Lakers obviously got to build a team around him, and I'm not sitting here. Luka's a top 5 player in the league, period. Do you think he's learned much from back then to now? And here's why I'm asking the question, because yesterday during the broadcast, when they did highlight that Luka was, he didn't get back on defense, I forgot who it was, but they had said something like, this is going to be the next part of his game. He's got to stop complaining the refs, this, all that stuff. I'm like, next part of his game. He's 26. Like, the guy's been in the league. If he hasn't learned it by now, I don't know what to tell you. But I remember there was a moment, and it kind of went viral. Brian Windhorst at the time. Do you remember? And I think it was probably the game before they ended up clinching. The Celtics ended up clinching. And he's pointing behind him and saying, that locker room is how you win an NBA championship. And he's basically he was directly going at Luka. Lakers got to build a team around Luka. I'm not trying to say that they have, because they haven't. And the expectations are not for them to win this year. Do you think Luka has learned in this past year and a half of how to carry yourself, how to lead a team, complaining to the referees, getting back, setting the example? Do you feel like he's done that?
No, not really. I think he just kind of is who he is with that part of his game. And you're absolutely right. I mean, Luka is, when you sit down at the beginning of the year and it's like, all right, who are the best players in the league? Luka is maybe the 4th name at worst on your sheet behind SGA, Jokic, and Giannis. And I would argue, because of availability reasons, he's probably ahead of Giannis at this point. So that's clearly one of the absolute best players in the league. But yeah, he's not. I just don't think he's going to change. You might get him to change for brief periods of time, just like the Mavericks did, where they were like, you got to stop with the complaining of the refs. And then they point out to him plays like, hey, you're complaining while your man is running down the floor and getting a layup. I thought what was worrisome last night for me was, I don't know what the Lakers' plan was offensively, other than we're going to run ISO actions.
The worst.
Yeah, for Luka, LeBron, and occasionally Austin Reaves.
And against that's like the worst team.
Yeah.
Because
they
Boston,
want that.
Of course they do. I mean, that's you're basically going 1-on-5 against a team that already plays good defense.
Yeah, there was a play in the first quarter LeBron got, excuse me, got Payton Pritchard on a switch, took him into the post, and Vucevic doubled, and LeBron dropped it off to, I think it was Hachimura. It might have been Ayton, but dropped it off to somebody on a cut for a layup. Might have even been Jackson Hayes when he was still in. But the Celtics took a timeout, and Joe Mazzulla ripped into Vucevic. They would rather let Payton Pritchard play one-on-one against LeBron, and just if LeBron overpowers them and scores, so be it. They are a no-help defense. You do not send help unless the man is truly beaten. You're rotating over to come, but there's no doubles there. They want you to play in those ISO actions because that's how they can kind of load up, to the ball without bringing help, but you're in help position to take away cutters and those kind of things. But what was really bothering me throughout the night with the Lakers was Luka had to take a lot of bad shots because now some of them were his own fault because he spent 14, 15 seconds of the shot clock just dribbling around. But then he dribbles, picks up his dribble, and that's it. No one moves. It's four guys just wherever they were standing, they stay right in those spots. There's no cutting, there's no movement, and he's launching it up. I mean, they finished with, let me make sure I have this right, 18 assists on 34 baskets, and some of those came late in the game, where the Celtics had 29 assists on 40 hoops. And you could just see Boston's whole thing is, even with Jaylen Brown, it's as he drives, it's everybody else, you need to move, you need to cut, open yourself up. But the Lakers, it's just a lot of standing around. It's just hard to figure out what is the game plan here. It's one thing if we're gonna hunt mismatch. There was a play in the third quarter where they were kind of making a little run. They went into a 3-man action with Luka, LeBron, and Austin Reaves. And Payton Pritchard was involved in it. And instead of taking one more screen to get Luka with Payton Pritchard on him, who he'll walk right down to the block and create something, they just said, all right, this is good enough, and switched it to Luka ended up with Jaylen Brown on him. And then took a crappy turnaround 18-footer. And while Pritchard chased Reaves, off to the top of the key. You have to be, I think, in a place where you've got to, I want to see more actions with the stars together. But the other guys, you should be getting, DeAndre Ayton and Jackson Hayes should be living off of drop-offs at the dunker spot 20 times a game, total 10 each or so or whatever, just off of misdirection actions where you get everybody focused on the three stars because they're playing together. And it's just a lot of standing around.
It's unfortunately not what the Lakers do in regards to that. I think it's one of the more frustrating things watching them on a night in, night out basis. There is way too much watching these stars. Look, you can win hero ball. Hero ball can work against certain teams in the NBA. Hero ball is not going to work when you play good teams. And obviously the Celtics play together. I got a question because you're asking the lineup stuff, and it's actually a perfect segue for me. I kept hearing them say on the broadcast last night, and I don't know, I'm not watching the Celtics every night, so I'm not here to try to break down the Celtics, but I kept hearing them say Payton Pritchard was in the starting lineup, and at some point now he's coming off the bench.
Since the trade deadline.
Okay, since the trade deadline.
Yeah, so what happened, I can just explain it very quickly.
Yeah, please.
Boston, most of the year, has played with three guards. It's been Derek White entrenched as a starter, Pritchard was the other starter, and Anthony Simons came off the bench. When they traded Simons for Vucevic, they traded a guard for a big. They didn't have any more ball handling on the bench. There was no ball handling, no shooting, no scoring coming off the bench. So they said, all right, we're going to bring in Vucevic. We're going to move Pritchard to the bench. And then they started starting Baylor Shireman instead, who started at times this year. The fifth starter for Boston has been kind of a rotating spot. It's Jayson Tatum's spot, and it's just been kind of it's Shireman, it's Hauser, it's Walsh, it's whoever. Well, now they're like, we're gonna stick with Hauser. We're gonna move we're gonna move Shireman into the starting group. Now we have a ball handler, shooter, scorer coming off the bench in Pritchard, and it allows him to help Vucevic a little bit by giving him a playmaker to play with.
The reason why I bring that up is I think, and I thought about this even. We keep talking about how Bron and Luka and AR have only played now 12 games together, and that seems to be a big storyline, and it is a big storyline. I'm not saying that it isn't, and certainly you want those three to have some continuity. I think the question that I would ask is, here's a player in Payton Pritchard that can put up 30 like he did yesterday and have a huge impact in the game, and he wasn't a starter. for how off the Lakers looked together and how off it's like, your turn. All right, now your turn. And it's like, if Luka has the ball, AR's in the corner. If AR has got the ball, Luka's becomes irrelevant. You think there's a world where the Lakers should look at, hey, Reaves, come off the bench, still get your 30 minutes a night. You're going to be in there when the game ends as well. But just to have, it feels like a little bit more of a flow. Guys know more of their roles. For the last couple of games, they played the Clippers on Friday night. They played, obviously they played Boston yesterday. I kept looking at this team and I'm like, yeah, you don't have guys that naturally play their roles. And I feel like one of those two guys can't be the person they are. Again, you're going to end the game with them, but do you think the Lakers would be better off staggering some of those minutes so that those three, and especially Luka and AR, are, I guess you could say, the head of the snake when they are in the game?
Yeah, I'm going to answer that kind of two parts here. I think staggering 100%. How you do that, that's really becomes only JJ Redick knows how you get there. But yeah, you need to have more minutes where each guy, especially Luka and Reaves, because I think LeBron at this point can adapt to playing with whoever, right? Like he's going to make it work.
1,000%.
In general, like I'm not too worried about that. But I would, whether it is, if JJ knows his guys better than obviously I do, better than anybody else, hopefully. If he says, if I put Austin Reaves on the bench, I'm going to lose him or it's going to become a problem, you still start him. But 4 minutes into the first quarter, pull somebody. Pull him, pull Luka. You know your guys better. Maybe you know how they're going to react to that. Because there's also a physical component to when guys rest and sit in quarters. But pull one early, bring them back in at the end of the first quarter with the bench unit, and let them kind of do their thing. And that's whether that's Luka or that's Reaves, either way. And yeah, if you think the best thing to do is, hey, I need to get more defense on the floor early in games, or I need something else. Yeah, there's no reason why you couldn't. Now, that's going to be a tough ask with Austin Reaves, 20-point per game guy, playing for a new contract.
Sure. Complicated.
It is. And it's a lot of these things become political because it's very easy for the Celtics to say, hey, Payton Pritchard, you're going to come off the bench again because you already did it and won sixth man of the year. And Payton Pritchard already knows, hey, even if I come off the bench, still going to play 30 minutes a night and I'm going to be in there at the end of the game. So I don't really care about starting, and I'm very good at this. If Reaves comes off the bench and just doesn't adapt to it well, it doesn't go well, it sounds very easy to say to do it, but it's not as easy as that. But I would, at least if you're going to start them all, I would very much consider my rotation changes and just switch them out early and give those guys time with other kinds of players around them. I think the big thing is for the Lakers, their role players are just they're all one-way guys. They're either offensive players or they're defensive players.
1,000%.
There's nobody is really a kind of offers you much two-way play there, and that's tough, and that's just a mistake. I mentioned this with our buddy Trevor Lane yesterday. It's now you're seeing since they won the championship, this is now the impact of the consistent talent drain that has happened where you missed on a couple first-round picks in Hood Schifino and Dalton Connect, who weren't like late 20s picks either. These guys were middle of the first round picks that haven't popped, whether you missed or they just didn't develop because they weren't given time or whatever it is. And trading away second round pick after second round pick, there's just nobody that you're looking at and saying, yeah, there's that guy in the pipeline. I mean, Reaves now, we'll go back to, he's one of the best undrafted players that's hit the league in years, but he's now an established player. We're no longer talking about somebody who's been a development player. He's already developed. So now it's just, this is where like Boston last night, Shireman and Walsh and Pritchard, these guys were all drafted in the, in the 20s or in the second round. And they just keep coming. Demetrius Cato was a cast off from the Sacramento Kings of all teams as a two-way player. They were like, you're not even good enough to be on a two-way with us. And the Celtics are like, we'll take you on a two-way and we'll figure it out. He didn't play last night, but Luka Garza cast off players, giving them really good minutes this year. You have to really invest in developing those guys. It's just been that's where they've missed. They don't have any of those cheap rookie scale minimum type contributors at the coming off the bench, and that's been a big miss.
Yeah, I said this before. I said actually to start off the show that honestly the Lakers need to follow a similar blueprint of the Celtics. I mean, that's just the reality of it. They got a really good front office. They obviously know how to scout. They obviously know how to give. They have a system that's already in play and people are adjusting to the system. So we'll see if new ownership, how long it's going to take for them to develop. By the way, I do think they'll eventually kind of get to a point where the front office is the right front office. They got plenty of people within that system, but we'll see when that happens. I got two more quick ones for you. I'm going to let you go, Keith, and I appreciate the time as always.
I apologize for the mini earthquake that is my golden retriever under my desk demanding attention.
Listen, I got a golden too, so when those guys come, there's nothing you can do.
He is like, I need pet, and I need pet.
Yeah, no, there's nothing you could do. Okay, so if you just had to guess this, again, this is just an opinion. That's all it is. A month from now, is Jayson Tatum on the Celtics?
Like playing?
Playing.
Yeah, absolutely. I think a little over a week from now, we're going to see him playing. I think beginning part of March. I don't know if it'll be March 1st. There's been all this buzz of March 1st. The game got NBC flexed it into their Sunday night game next Sunday night. That's been kind of a thing. They've been doing this documentary with NBC, so there's a lot of buzz that could be that. And then if not, I think the end of March. I think the Celtics idea is if he is going to return, it's going to be with a month and a half to go. He's not going to play back-to-backs, I would imagine, this year. And then it'll be give him enough games to get his legs under him, get into a good rhythm, and then you can go into the playoffs. If he can't come back within the next couple of weeks, I don't think you're going to see him play this year. And then just if anybody's wondering, there's no rushing him. There's no, the Celtics aren't pushing him. The Celtics have told him this is going to be multiple parties involved. It's Jayson Tatum says, I'm ready to go. The Celtics agree he's ready to go. The medical staff agrees he's ready to go. And his own, independent, they work with the team doctors, are also saying he's ready to go. With that, if anybody feels off, they wait. There's not, nobody is pushing him to play with that, but I do think you're going to see him play here fairly recently.
All right, last one I got. You're watching also the Eastern Conference, probably closer than I am on a night in, night out basis. Let's assume Tatum comes back. And let's assume all these other teams, they got their guys. Pistons are healthy and Cavs are healthy and the Knicks are healthy. If you want to throw any other teams in there, do Celtics just automatically become the favorites to come out of the Eastern Conference if Tatum is there? And if Tatum's not there, sounds like they could still potentially, compete to come out of the Eastern Conference, whether it happens or not. But I'd love to get your take on that.
Yeah, I don't know about favorites. I would say they're in the mix. I think with or without Jayson Tatum, they're in the mix with the other three teams you mentioned, Detroit, Cleveland, and New York. I think those are the top four teams in the East. Who knows what could happen, but it's, barring an injury or some surprise, I think those four teams have been the best teams in the East by a decent margin. The Pistons, this is the age-old story, right? We did it with the Thunder too. You got to prove it to us in the playoffs, right?
Of course, absolutely.
Until you win a couple series and you start, showing it, then we'll believe, right? If you don't, it is what it is, and you're a nice story, but prove it in the playoffs, we'll be there. To some extent, the Knicks and the Cavs are in that same boat because they have not broken through. The Knicks got really close a year ago. The Cavs have been kind of a disaster in the last couple of playoffs. So, but the Cavs are playing pretty good. I think the James Harden acquisition was really big for them. And the Knicks they're good. They're just, those two teams are really solid. I think if Tatum comes back and you're not asking Jayson Tatum to be Jayson Tatum, All-NBA, MVP candidate Jayson Tatum. It's come back and be better than the team's 10th man has been, then that's already an upgrade, right? And if you can be, as things go, and by the time, it's playoff time, it's like, okay, you're not health-wise, but production-wise, you're 75, 80% of Jayson Tatum. Great. Let's go. Let's move forward and off we go. And I think they're ready for it. I do think it's going to be a little bit bumpy. He's not going to come back and be like, hey guys, I'm just going to go spot up in the corner like Sam Hauser. Like, that's not what he does. So there's going to be a little bit of reconfiguration that's going to happen. Jaylen Brown's going to have to cede some touches and shots. Derek White, Payton Pritchard, some minutes that have gone to some other guys are probably not going to be there. But, if everybody's bought in, I think it'll go quite well.
Keith, great stuff, brother. I love getting the perspective on the Eastern. We spend so much time. I mean, every single day I'm talking about the West and looking at that. But the East is fascinating. It's up in the air. There's some really good teams. The style that they play, certainly Detroit and Boston have a certain style that isn't exactly the best fit for the Lakers. I appreciate the time. Great work as always. And thank you for coming on the show, buddy.
I appreciate it. I'll just finish with one thing. I think both conferences are pretty wide open. I respect the Thunder. I think they're a really good team, but the Spurs have had their number this year. I just think they're not quite what they were a year ago. And that's typical, right? There's a reason we haven't seen repeat champs in a very long time.
Sure.
And I tell people all the time, you don't climb Everest, come back down and say, you know what, let's go back up again, right? Nobody does that. And that's, the equivalent of winning the title is you climbed Everest. Now you came back down. Takes a little while to gear up. I think the Thunder, if you made me pick one team to win the championship, I'm going to pick Oklahoma City still. But I think with some of the injuries that they've had, some of the other stuff, it's they can be gotten. And I think it's going to be an awesome stretch run and an awesome playoffs.
Can't wait for it, buddy. Let's do this again as we get closer to the postseason, and appreciate the time again, okay?
I appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
All right, that is Keith Smith right there. Great stuff. He is solid. The man obviously knows his knows. One of the funniest comments I saw on there was somebody saying that they said there's all this, great guest talent, all this, and then somebody says something to the extent they're like, Alan, I know, let us burn the Lakers, not just Keith. He's like, let's keep just the Laker fan to burn the Lakers. We don't want somebody else burning them. Listen, if they deserve to get burned, then that comes with the territory. All right, great stuff right there. I know I still got a number of topics I want to get into. Let me just say this here real quick because I put it in as one of my topics, the Laker lineups. Guys, I'm not sold on the lineup. I'm not telling you, I don't know if I have a solution for it, but I am more and more open now to saying, well, if it's not Austin off the bench, then, and I know here's what sucks about the idea. There is politics that are going to be involved. He is in a contract year. He probably definitely doesn't want to come off the bench. And frankly, he can make a case that, of course, he should be starting, but they got to do a better job of how they stagger some of these minutes. Rui doesn't look nearly as much of the player that he's supposed to be coming off the bench. Jake LaRavia is kind of a non-factor. And I'm not telling you to start these guys, but what I'm telling you is you need a head of the snake to come off the bench as well. And Lakers don't really have a natural point guard right now that can orchestrate everything, but they have all these other playmakers that are in the starting lineup. I mean, it doesn't just, I just don't think it helps the Lakers to have, you heard Keith say it. I've said this so many times, and it's probably, I'm sick of saying it myself, but how many times have I said, okay, here they go again, your turn, my turn. Okay, Luka's got the ball. Well, I'll just go in the corner. That ain't going to work. You got to have 3-4 guys that are constantly moving, constantly running an offense, a motion offense. And if it's just going to be ISO basketball, for the love of God, stagger some of these minutes so Austin Reaves doesn't have so many minutes where he's on the floor, but he's nowhere to be found, or he's not involved to the offense, or Luka's just dribbling the ball, whatever the case is. That's why I asked about the Payton Pritchard thing, because Payton Pritchard came off the bench yesterday and still dropped 30, and you guys know the impact that he had. Is there a world like that exists for Austin Reaves? The rotations don't seem fluid at all. And maybe it's because they just got everybody back and they're trying to figure out that rotation as well. Maybe it's going to look a little bit better as we go on. That's obviously the hope, and we'll see what eventually happens. Shout out to Harrah Resort SoCal. If you're looking for a staycation, you're kind of confused. Where do I go? I want to be smart with my budget. Do me a favor. Don't go to an airport and start trying to figure out, well, I got a round trip ticket here, and I'm going to pay X amount of dollars to leave my car there. And then I got to go rent a car, and I got to go do this. Think about just the expenses that keep piling up. If you're in Southern California, you're 1 to 2 hours away from one of the best resorts in all of SoCal. Harrah Resort SoCal. I could tell you firsthand, it's a phenomenal place. It's a phenomenal location, over 1,000 luxurious rooms. Dining, you got Hell's Kitchen, Gordon Ramsay's Hell's Kitchen. By the way, the largest Hell's Kitchen in the country. You got, I'm going to keep saying this, Rita's Cantina is the most underrated place, I think, on that property. Mexican food, phenomenal Mexican food, overlooks the pool, overlooks the Palomar Mountains. If you're looking for entertainment, I went out there and saw a great comedian, Andrew Santino, saw him a couple weeks ago. So I really highly recommend, if you're looking for a staycation, harrahsocal.com. There's also a link in the description here. If you click on that link, it's part of Caesars Rewards. You get 20% off when you book. Sliwa is part of the code there. So just make sure you just click on the link. Copy it, paste it. If you want to go to Harrah's Resort SoCal, make sure you use that link so you can take advantage of that 20% off. Restrictions do apply. Shout out to Harrah's Resort SoCal. All right, let's keep moving here. Let's just do comments for now. Let's see what I got enough here that Let's see. I did this one. Thank you, by the way, for a lot of these supers here. I really do appreciate it. I think somebody was telling me a little bit earlier, they were not talking about Hugo Gonzalez. They were talking about Shire. I think the player they were talking about in regards to who was guarding and playing hard. And Boston definitely has role players. Like I said, I think the model of what the Celtics have created is kind of what the Lakers have to model. They're drafting players. They're picking up two-way players. They're developing them. Lakers aren't doing any of that. You know, like he said, a great example from Keith, Jaylen Hood-Schifino, Dalton Connect is, again, as much run as any of us. That's a good example there. All right, let's get another one in here. This summer should be finding a two-way player to put next to Luka for the future. I'm sick of one-way players. Again, I think, you know, it's so tough to build a team where how many different players play one side of the court? You know, Austin Reaves, you're depending on one side of the court. LeBron at this stage, you're basically depending on one side of the court. Jared Vanderbilt's one side of the court. Marcus Smart is one side of the court. Luke Kennard is one side of the court. Luka's one side of the court. It's just the pick is whether that guy's focused on offense or he's focused on defense. What happened to guys that can play both sides of the floor? Well, they're around. He's not playing for the Lakers right now. The kid's name was Shireman. There you go, Shireman. That's right. This is the comment that was here a little bit earlier that you were talking about. By the way, that's also a compliment where I can name off 2-3 players. I don't know which player you're talking about. They got a lot of good players that you know fill that role, fill that void. All right, let's get a couple more comments in here. Sliwa, watching the game yesterday, Rich Paul comments about AR trade don't sound so crazy. Give me your real opinion. I'll tell you my real opinion. Sign Austin Reaves this summer. Hopefully that dollar amount is a number that both teams can work with. Give it 1 year and then make a determination from there. You want Austin Reaves on your team because at the absolute worst, you want him as an asset. If he's not an asset for the Lakers, if he's not the future for the Lakers, you want him as an asset to go try to get a future player. So I think that the answer here is very simple. Sign Austin Reaves this summer, period. Sign Austin Reaves. And hopefully it's a number hopefully it's not 45 a year. You know, hopefully it's a number that most teams around the NBA are like, hey, yes, Austin Reaves is making money now, but he's still a really good player and a really good asset. Guys, here's what changed with Austin Reaves for a lot of opinions about Austin Reaves on the Lakers. The only thing that changed was Luka came. And the fact that Luka came, now you're asking yourself, do we have the right players that complement Luka? And if I said, hey, in a perfect world, give me the one player you want that complements Luka. And not a name, but the style of player. You're not going to name Austin Reaves because he's also a guy that needs the ball. He's more offensively focused. He has some defensive struggles on the defensive side. So to answer this question, I'll give you my real opinion. My real opinion is Austin Reaves and Luka Doncic deserve a year together when LeBron is gone. And they also deserve a summer together when the Lakers can build a team with Luka as the head of the snake and everything built around Luka. If it doesn't work in a year, then you could start making your determinations of what to do from there. I'd rather have the asset than not have the asset. All right, let's get a couple more in here. A lot of people giving some love to our guests. That's great. I always appreciate when you guys do that. Keith is phenomenal. Excellent interview, Slee. Thank you, brother. No, Keith is really good. Keith is a pro's pro. I'll definitely have him on either when we get to the postseason or as we get closer to the postseason. We'll definitely have him on again. All right, what are we already? An hour and 5 minutes into the show? Jesus, how the hell does that happen? I got 3 points across, and we're already this far into the show. All right, let's do some NBA news right now. I'm gonna wait on some of the. Well, no, actually, no. There's no need to wait. Let me just get into a couple things here real quick. Let me just point out something here real quick. Walker Kessler's name comes up again around the Lakers. I mean, how many different times is Walker Kessler's name coming up? I'm just going to read this here real quick. This was actually on the, if I'm correct here, Tim McMahon. I think it was on the Hoop Collective podcast. I'm going to read just real quick what it said here, a little bit of NBA news. It said the Jazz have a number in mind. Remember, he's a restricted free agent. I'll probably get into this a little bit more tomorrow as well. Jazz have a number of mine. I think they are comfortable in the $25 million range. Walker Kessler and his reps believe he is worth much, much more than that. A potentially very tense and extended restricted free agency process. Oh, that's exactly what the Lakers want. They want this thing not to work out well. They want to have a chance at going to get a guy like Walker Kessler. And the only way that's going to happen is if the Utah Jazz say, well, we just can't afford this guy. You know, they already have $90 million dedicated to their front court and Lauri Markkanen and Jaren Jackson Jr. So keep an eye on Walker Kessler. We'll see what happens. But that's a name that's obviously going to continue to be there. Let me read a quote here real quick. LeBron yesterday after the game talking about Jaylen Brown. He says, talking about Jaylen Brown for MVP. He says, let me see if I find it here. I think I got the wrong link here. I'll find it here in a second. He's making a case. He wants Jaylen Brown to be considered. He's like, I don't really even know what the criteria is for MVP anymore, but seeing what Jaylen Brown has done with the Boston Celtics, seeing how good he's been for Boston with Tatum out, he's basically saying, and I got the quote right now, the whole MVP thing, I don't understand why his name is not getting talked about. Like nobody gave them a shot to start the season. He's averaging 30, just under 30. It's a popularity contest sometimes, I tell you. Jaylen Brown should be mentioned, and so should Cade Cunningham. Those two guys should definitely get MVP votes for what they've been able to do for their squads. Last thing I want to mention here, and then I'm going to look at a couple of comments, then we're going to call it a day. I also will take a look. I don't know who's playing today in the NBA, so we'll do that. Shout out to Brad Wallace and the Wallace Firms for sponsoring this segment, our weekend recap and our weekend preview. One quick thing on the weekend recap. A lot of good NBA games, but a lot of these games too, just surprisingly, a lot of these teams in the Western Conference keep losing. The one thing I'll mention, weekend recap, Team USA beats Canada men's hockey for the U.S.'s first Olympic gold since the 1980s Miracle on Ice against the Russians. Final score 2-1. Yes, I'm reading this. Yes, I'm not following hockey as good as some other people. You know what I don't want people to do? Because this is what's going to happen this morning. Everybody's going to start walking around the States. But did you see USA win? Freaking love the USA when it comes to hockey. Like, you don't know jack-ish about it, okay? Stop pretending like you know what the hell's going on. I didn't know what was going on. I knew they were in the finals. Shout out to Team USA. That damn impressive, too, to beat Canada as well. That's it. That's my hockey breakdown. I'm not here to try to, tell everybody that you remember in the third period when this happened and that happened. I'm not the guy. I'm not the guy to do that. All right, games coming up tonight. Last thing I'm going to mention. What do we got around the NBA? Spurs and the Pistons. Let's go. 4:00 tip-off on Peacock. Spurs, Pistons. By the way, if I'm being honest with you, two of my favorite teams to watch in the NBA, Spurs and the Pistons. 4:00 tip-off tonight. Guys, get in on that. Jazz and the Rockets play each other. Jazz trying to lose every game. They're executing their game plan very well. Let's get a couple final comments in. We're going to call it a day. Thank you, everybody, again, for being here. Shout out to AM 570 as well. We're live on their YouTube as well. So we'll probably kind of start mixing in 570 here we're kind of trying to just try some different things and everything else. So shout out to AM 570. All right, let's get and if you're here from AM 570, thank you for being here. Brown and Cade are the true MVPs so far this season. No Lakers should be endorsing a Celtic for MVP. What if that person actually deserves to be an MVP? What do you want me to tell you? What do you want me to tell you? I think this is what I'd rather do. What I'd rather do is be honest. I'd rather be honest. All right, let's get a couple more and then we're done. Preview the NBA Finals. Spurs Pistons. I have a little hesitation on Detroit as well. Like, if they're in a 7-game set, New York or Detroit, aren't you leading towards New York? Just because of some of their players, vets, been in the league for a long time? I think I'm leaning more towards that. All right, that's it. We're done. Got to get the hell out of here. Thank you, everybody, for being here. Greatly appreciate you for being a part of the show. Greatly appreciate you guys hanging out for an hour. I'm back on tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. Looking forward to that. Lakers got the Magic tomorrow night, so we'll definitely get ready for the Lakers and the Magic game. And then, of course, we'll do a post-game show for that. Thank you, everybody. Hope you guys have a great rest of your day. Hope you have a great Monday. I will see you guys tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. Have a great rest of your day.